Well, thanks for joining me today for our team meeting. I know we'll miss Alyssa today, but she is also en route as well. Of course, kiss. Thank you. But I had the pleasure of going to a groundswell meeting Saturday, and so I'm going to share a little bit with you what I learned today. But first, I wanted to congratulate Emily for becoming a director and Alyssa for being a senior coordinator. And then I just wanted to open it up. I want to hear, what are your big successes this month? It doesn't necessarily have to be numbers. I just want to hear from you. What did you succeed at?
Well, I obviously met a huge goal. You both know that. Okay. So I'm very excited. Global was a big part of it, I'm sure. So I'm so glad I went to Global, and I will be promoting Global for everyone on my team and on our team from here on out. That was awesome. What else? I don't know. I think I learned a lot from you, Chelsea, when I saw you not quit. I mean, I think it was like the 27th of the month, and I was getting there, but I was like, I think it would take a lot, to get me past, and I don't know. But I was talking to Alyssa, and she was like, it might not be as hard as you think. Like, if you don't get there, at least you worked at it. It's not going to hurt anything to work at it. So at least you did. And she was describing how your momentum has really just like blown up after that. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. What else am I going to do in the next 3 days? I might as well just like keep working, and I'm really glad I did. So that was a big deal that I mean, in the past months, that's one thing I haven't done. When I get towards the end, if I don't think I'm going to make it, I sometimes kind of slow down and refocus a bit on the next month. But I didn't do that this last time, so.
Great. So yeah, that definitely made a big difference then, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Claire?
Well, one of my huge successes, I think, is I had my first live event. So that was exciting. I did 2 live events, actually. So I kind of feel like I stepped into a new phase of my business with those. And that was really
Uh-oh. I think we're losing you.
It was really nice. Uh-oh. Maybe.
Okay, there you are.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So, yeah, that was really exciting because it's been fun to do the live events. And then it's also like, I can just see where that can help me grow my building or my business a lot. And then especially with, there were 2
Well, we're losing you again.
I'll go back to you guys. You guys better be the ones to talk.
Oh, no, that's okay.
But I'm here listening.
Were you talking about the gentleman who came to your house and who you talked to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was fantastic. I mean, just putting yourself out there and
yeah, and it was definitely scary, but it was good. I could see the benefit from doing it.
Yeah, no, totally. And actually, that's what I want to talk about first off today was just the power in asking people to host for you, and just the power of live events as well. Because for me, what I did this month was I looked at... Mommy, you're too loud. Oh, sorry, I'm too loud, they say. I looked at some of my Rockstar members, the people who are really excited about Shaklee, the people who, are always sharing my stuff or commenting on things. And I approached them and asked them if they would be willing to host an event, either live or on Facebook. And I had 2 new members who wanted to do the Facebook events. One didn't go that well. There was a lot of mindset stuff there, I think. And the other one, though, I actually have a call set up this Wednesday night with her and Alyssa because she's interested in doing the business. So it was really awesome because I already think she's going to be great at the business. But it was definitely kind of a way to get her feet wet without committing to anything. And she totally excelled at it. I mean, she was sharing her testimonial. She was posting on the event page, and she just did really, really great. And so those were my 2 big things, and I found another person who she wasn't a member, but I had given her a lot of samples and she was super excited to get started. And so she decided to host an event for me, and I had my best event I've ever had. It was fantastic. I had the most orders in one event that I have ever had, and everyone was super excited about it because she was excited about it. So Alyssa gave me some good advice on that too. Instead of opening it up to everybody, instead of asking all your members in your member page, specifically ask people, because then they feel special about it and they're more willing to say yes. So that's kind of a little bit about, I just wanted to share the power of these kind of things, like live events and asking people to host for you, because it really does bring in more members, which we always need, and also helps us to screen for the possibility of business builders. So now I want to talk a little bit about Groundswell, which I went to on Saturday. And for me, going to events, I mean, of course, it's not like Global. I mean, it was definitely a much smaller scale, and way, way less people. But I really loved, we talked a lot about mindset. And I think that's so important to building our business. We know that it's all in our head most of the time. And I just remember writing down, which I've written this down before from other people, but you are your biggest problem, but you're also your solution. And that just really stuck out to me again, because it's so true. I'm the one building my business. Alyssa's not building the business for me. Even my own distributors are not building the business for me. It's still my business that I have to grow. And I can either choose to work out of fear, and then that brings just this whole thing, you feel like you're under pressure, you feel like you are restricted, and you just get this anxiety about how you're doing your business. Like when you're looking at those goals, it freaks you out in a bad way instead of motivating you and freaking you out in a good way. And so we talked about switching from acting out of fear to acting out of love. And I just thought this was so fantastic. I mean, first of all, for my faith, because that's what I want to be doing with my life, is serving out of love. But when you serve out of love, you look into someone else's world before yours. And you're controlling the conversation when you are asking those questions, because whoever asks the questions controls the conversation, and people feel cared for, they feel loved when you are really focused on them. And when you are serving them because of love, and a sincere interest to help them, whether that's with, just giving them some options, or that's with presenting them with the business. If maybe they're stuck in life and they can't dream anymore, or they don't have the income. I mean, all of these things are gifts that we're sharing with people, just like Alyssa shared with us. And look at what it's doing for us, from personal growth to income to just deepening relationships with people we already know and love. And I really appreciated this focus on acting out of love instead of acting out of fear. And when we act in fear, it really holds us back and limits what we're capable of. Another thing they talked about was momentum, which Emily and I were talking about this just right at the beginning of the call. But, once I promoted to director, I have just felt like, okay, I had a few weeks when I promoted that I was totally freaking out. But, as I've told you guys before, I totally had this mindset shift of, instead of working out of that fear, I started working out of the will to do it. I knew I was either going to do it or I wasn't, and there was really no in between. Sorry, my kids are loud. But yeah, and it created this momentum where, I have surpassed each of my goals every month, and not because I'm something fabulous, but just because I feel like, I'm working on loving people where they are. Guys, working on loving people where they are. And I've had a lot of people who come back and say they're not interested, or it's not the right time for them. But I have still gotten a lot of people who have said, thank you so much for asking me the questions, listening to me, and loving me where I am, even though I'm not interested, And I feel like that is my goal in my business, is to have people feel that way when they interact with me, to have them feel like they have solutions, but they also have somebody who loves them, regardless of if they say yes or not. And so this has created this huge momentum where I am growing steadily every month. And a good example of this was at this event I just had. I felt like I said all the wrong things. Like, honestly, I felt like my presentation was kind of a train wreck. I had my slides, but it was on my laptop and they weren't going to be able to see it. So I didn't use it. So I was really just going off of, the 3 Ps and kind of lacing it together. And, but I think what they said to me was that they really heard me speaking from my heart. They heard me telling my why, and that's what was leading me through this presentation. And I mean, that was my goal, right? But it just goes once again to prove that you can say all the right things to the wrong person and it won't make a difference. No. Or you can say all the wrong things to the right people and they'll still say yes, So I really appreciate this. And there was one thing that he talked about. He gave this example of jumping out of an airplane. And all of the preparation until you jump out of the airplane is terrifying and can scare you to death. And, you always come to a point where you're standing at that door and you're getting ready to jump, and you can either say no or you can say yes and just do it, right, and get into action. And he said, as you jump out, you're terrified, and it's a struggle when you first jump out, because you're trying to not flail all over and you're trying to breathe because the air is moving so fast, it takes your breath away. And then he said, you get to this point where you start to relax, you're breathing normally again, and you're actually starting to enjoy it because you're seeing the view and you're hearing this. He said it's just such a peace and it's a quiet that you don't get anywhere else. And he said, and from there you just keep going, you're falling and it's peaceful and you're enjoying it. And he said momentum is a lot like that. It's terrifying to step out of that airplane and then you're still, unsteady when you first take that leap. But if you stick with it and you don't keep fighting yourself and you don't keep allowing those fears to drive you or to cause you to react, then you get to this place where that momentum is just at its peak and you're unstoppable and you're enjoying it. And I thought that is so how this business is, with promoting to director. It's scary. It is one of the scariest things you say yes to, and you might spend some time fighting in your mind of how in the world am I going to do this again? But if you just get into action, good actions that are income producing, you'll get into this groove where you're challenging yourself and you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's becoming the norm, is to step out of your comfort zone. And as you do that, you start enjoying what you're doing even more, and you're still overcoming those fears daily. I think that doesn't ever go away. I think we all will always have to face our fears. But Craig Cushman said something about when we confront our fears and our insecurities, what that really means is we're just being with them. So we're acknowledging them, we're acknowledging they're there, and then we're choosing to, what we're going to do with them. And in our case, because we want to keep going, we're choosing to face them and step out and challenge ourselves. But he created this picture of a cup, and he had 2 different cups. And he was saying the difference between context and content. And so if you think of a cup, the outside is your context, right? So this is like your solid foundation. This is your belief in Shaklee. This is your testimonials and the products. This is your vision, your why, and just everything that is on the outside, like the foundation. And then on the inside, you have your content. And so that's like just different things that you're doing, different things that come along. And what happens is in life, we're faced with heat, right? A lot of times we get put under a lot of pressure. And if your outside context isn't firm and isn't made of solid, made of a solid foundation, then when that heat comes along, it can put a big hole in your cup and everything on the inside just kind of falls out, right? So this is why having that why and knowing our why and living from that why is so important. So that when the pressure and the heat come along, you won't get a big hole and everything won't fall out of your cup, right? You won't dissolve and fall apart. And I think, you know, as we're all moving into more leadership roles where we're training other people, this is really important to know our why, and to not only know it, but to write it down, to work for it, and then also to revisit it continually. So when we see it come to fruition or getting close to being done, we need to continue to rewrite that why so that we're always motivated by it and we always have that strong foundational context. And I thought this was really important because if you don't know your why and if you aren't working from your why or towards your why, it's really easy to have other shiny things come along that distract us. You know, there's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of people who are constantly in our face about things, and it can be really easy to get distracted. You know, maybe just for a little while or maybe completely altogether. It makes us jump ship, you know. So we just have to be, you know, solid in why we're doing this, why we've partnered with this company, and why we essentially love these products, you know, and what they do for us and what they allow us to do for other people. And he also made another really good point about, you know, the saying, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And he said, for your business, he said, that's a terrible thing to say. He said, what you should be telling yourself is you need to make the heat in the kitchen. You need to light that fire under yourself that challenges yourself to grow. Just like Emily said, you know, she challenged herself to push hard those last 3 days and she broke out as director. And I think when I did too, I had the same situation where I got down to my last few days and I still wasn't there, and I didn't think I was even close, but I had a choice. I could either challenge myself and push hard, and if I didn't make it, well, I still grew. But if I did make it, then what? You know, I mean, how exciting. And so he was just challenging us to create our own fire, to create our own momentum, to get us going. And he called them, I think Alyssa has talked about this before, but the OSM, the oh, you know what moments. And just creating those and going after those instead of being afraid of those moments, to create them yourself. So like Claire said, you know, doing those live events can be really scary because you don't know if people are going to show up. You don't know if anyone is going to be excited about it or their faces are going to totally glaze over and be super bored, you know, because people don't think about the stuff that we think about all the time. And we never want to bore anybody because we're super excited about it. But doing these things pushes you out of that comfort zone. And you're in one of those moments. I'm sure before you started your event, Claire, you were like, oh, you know what? This is scary. But you still did it, right? You didn't just dissolve and say, oh, no, I can't do it. But just a sense of creating those moments so that you are challenged. And it's either fly or fail, and you just do it, right? And sometimes we do fail. I love what Charlene says about fail fast, fail often, and pivot, because I think that's how we learn, right? I even learned at my recent event that it went really well, and everyone ordered. However, I mentioned something about detox symptoms with Vitalizer and doing the different foundational health things. And I think that made everyone not be willing to try those. So I had a lot of cleaning products purchased. And I did have a few people who went with nutritional health, but they went with more targeted solutions instead of doing the overall foundational health. And thankfully afterwards, I was able to reflect on this and I was like, okay, this is probably not something I should tell people before they've ever even started, even though we know it's a good thing. they don't, and nobody wants to have the potential of feeling really crappy before doing these, you know. So that was one of those moments where I got to look back and learn, you know, I failed in that area. I probably could have sold a lot of vitalizing plan if I hadn't opened my big mouth and scared people. Sometimes less is more. But I just want to ask you guys, you know, what scares you most? Like when you're looking at your activities, what is the one thing that just you are just uncomfortable with doing? So I want to open that up to you guys, and then I can kind of share mine too.
I think for me, it's having just moved to Florida. I have made friends. I've made friends that we've talked about Shackley. I've made friends who have ordered Shackley there. But it scares me. I feel like a small fish in a big pond over there right now. Like, I really do. I feel so small and helpless because I left an area where I know everyone. I know almost everything about the area. I can take you almost anywhere in Appleton. People at church know our whole family. I mean, I didn't feel so small. I don't feel so small here. And there, I just feel like I've been really humbled. And so the thought of putting myself out there and inviting my brand new friends who don't actually know me as well, who wouldn't necessarily come to support me at this point. They would maybe come if they were interested, but they don't know me quite well enough to say, this is my niece, or this is my friend I've known for years, and she's doing a new thing, and I really want to get her started and really help her out. So I don't necessarily, so that scares me to invite my new friends who I feel so small around to a live event that I'm doing alone without my team. I haven't done one yet in Florida, and so that's on my list for October, but I'm not super looking forward to it. But I think I need to do it. And like you said, it's the thing I'm kind of afraid of. But I'm putting it for a little bit later in the month. Partly because I'm in town for 2 weeks. So I'm not going to be there till the end of the month. But I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous, but I think it's what I need to do to maintain and grow even more. So
That's great. So yeah, that's what I ask myself that a lot. What am I most scared of? And then tackle that first, you know, at least getting it on the calendar, and don't wait to invite, because then if you will, you'll be like, oh, well, no one's coming. I'm just going to cancel, you know.
Or it's too late now. Right. No one want to be invited 2 days before. Yeah.
Right.
You know.
So
that's what I did before. I did have one on the calendar for September, and that's exactly what I did. I invited 2 people that I felt comfortable inviting. One didn't respond, and one said no. And that was enough for me to say, okay, well, I'm not going to invite today. And then the next day, I was like, well, I'm not going to invite that day. And also, I got pretty close to the date I had set, and I was like, well, no one's coming. Yep. But it was like my own fault. I set myself up for that. So I'm not going to do that this time.
I did that 2 months ago, too. I had some smoothie events on there, and I just didn't invite because I was scared to. I was scared to hear those no's, or, you know, with the smoothie workshops, the why do I need to pay money kind of thing, you know. And so I did the same thing. I didn't invite. I set myself up for failure, and then I canceled, you know, because it was fear than facing that fear. So that's a great one. Very great. How about you, Claire? I don't know if you're...
I will try this, yeah. I think one of my biggest fears is what other people will think that I'm pushing people too hard, because I'm a very proactive person, but I don't want people to feel pressured, and I'm always afraid people are feeling pressured. And so essentially what I'm doing is putting thoughts in their mind, which I shouldn't be doing, but I'm just always afraid that people are going to feel pressured, or what they're going to feel. And I don't know. That's one of my fears.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. No, I totally understand that. You know, I think a lot of times when you're just straightforward with people, they appreciate that. Like, for this event I had on Friday night, it was the last day of the month, but it was also a fundraiser event. So I put it out there. I posted in the event page, and then I also told them during the live event, I said, you know, I I need, being the last day of the month and this being a fundraiser event, I do need all orders in by midnight Central Standard Time tonight. But then I said, my goal is not to pressure you to buy. I said, that's not how I do my business. And if you do not want to buy anything now, or you want to wait until later, I said, that's totally fine. But, just for it being the end of the month, like I do need them in tonight if you can. And surprisingly, everyone was just like, okay, I don't think anyone felt pressured. And because I had told them this before the night of the event, I think people had time to prepare, like if they needed to talk to their spouse first about something, about spending some money or whatever, I think they probably already had. I got pretty great results from that. Just being open with people about, I did say too, I said, most of our events were just all about education and, showing people that there are options. We're not about pressuring people to buy. Like that's not the way we do our business. But I think people really appreciated that. So you could just always do that too, Claire. Just tell people.
Yeah, I've found that too. Like it is really helpful. People just want to know. People want to know that you care about them, that you're there to help them, and not that you're there always to reach your goal. So if you can just say, like what you said, just be straightforward. This is what helped me. Like it's not like people are idiots. They know network marketing is what it's about and what people are hoping for. So they're not dumb. So as long as you can be straightforward and say, this is something I'm working toward. If not, I'll love you still.
Yeah.
So I'll love you a little extra. But
right.
You know what I mean? Like it is,
Yeah.
I've found the same thing. Like I've reached out to a ton of people in September to try to get over my hurdle. And then some didn't get back to me, but I was very straightforward. And I said, the same sort of thing. Like I'm really working at something I've been working at for a couple months now. I'm working hard this month. And I don't remember how I put it, but I had a few people that didn't respond, but have responded to me in the last couple of days saying like, oh, I didn't have my phone. I was out of town for the weekend, but I'd love to order. So that's setting me up for another good month. Mm-hmm. And that's great. But I think people just really appreciate, hearing from your heart and seeing that what your motives are and stuff like that. So can't really go wrong with that.
Yep, I totally agree. I don't know if you guys saw the video Alyssa posted earlier today, but it's Michael Hyatt, the interview he did with the other lady. And that is a big thing. We like to tell ourselves stories. We like to create reasons for why people don't respond to us. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've really worked at lately, is just rewriting that story in my mind. Or just not allowing myself to focus on that, because how often do we have people not respond and our automatic response is, oh my gosh, they hate me, I'm annoying them, woe is me, but the truth is, and they said this in the video about you think about you more than anyone else does, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's so true, because these people they're probably not thinking about me, first of all, the other thing is they probably thought they responded or they got distracted before responding, so I try to tell myself people are busy, and maybe I will send them a reminder, a little later, but it's obviously not the right time right this second, and that's okay. I'm not going to send them 50 texts and say, how come you didn't respond? Like, do you hate me? What's going on? Like,
yes, no one's trying to sabotage your business.
Right. Right, exactly. Except for you when you do that. Yeah. So we have 10 minutes left, but I think we're pretty much wrapped up here. So I did write this one thing down by Zig Ziglar. I'm sure you guys have heard this quote before, but it says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I think that is so true. If you tell yourself my goal is too big, I'm not going to hit it, you're probably not going to hit your goal. I have really refocused my mind on talking to myself better. Instead of saying, I hope to make the next rank, or I hope to hit, my goal this month is 3,500 PGV. Instead of saying, well, I hope to get that, or I'm trying to work towards that, I say, when I hit 3,500 or when I surpass 3,500. And I just really have worked on talking well to myself and really envisioning what it'll feel like when I get there. And not focusing on the negative. I'm just trying to rewrite my story and trick my brain into thinking that it's already happened. So then it's much easier for me to do the daily tasks that I do enjoy. You know, I mean, I would say we probably all agree that we do love talking to friends and helping people feel better. I mean, that's why we do what we do. But really just think about this week, stuttering Stanley, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I just challenge you to focus on those areas that terrify your pants off and do those first, because the other ones are always going to come easier. You know, so if you're comfortable sending messages, well, send some of those to feel good about it. And then also make sure you're focusing on doing something that does scare you, because that's where you're going to experience the most growth. And that's going to set you up for even more success in the future, because then you're working on building those skills up. You know, you're working every time you do a live event, you know, you're working on your speaking skills and interacting with people and asking questions. That's another really good skill I've found, is working on asking questions. Even if I'm at church, I've been working on this, you know, like when we have meet and greet, I try to command or direct the conversation by asking questions. And I'm not asking them about myself, you know, obviously, but I'm asking them about them. And I think people feel loved that way. They feel cared for, and they really get that feeling and sense that you truly want to know more about them. And people respond to that. And I just challenge you to do that this week in special ways. You know, maybe try to pick 2 people every day to work on asking questions, you know, even if it's sending a message or when you're talking to somebody. Even at a restaurant, you know, asking your waiter or waitress questions about themselves or what they're doing or whatever. I think that really helps us to build that skill in ourselves. So, did you guys have anything else you wanted to say, or anything you wanted to share with the team, encouragement, anything like that? No? All right. Well, then I think that's it. And we'll share this later with everyone else on the team. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes, thank you.
All right. You guys take care.
Bye.
We're going to do it. We're going to keep growing.
Yes, we are. See you later.
Yeah, see ya.